Now back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on ESPN 790 AM. Brought to you proudly by the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, Gaston's White River Resort, Sportsman's Warehouse, and Barton Power Sports.
Hey, good Saturday morning. Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray as we talk every Saturday morning for 90 minutes. Couldn't do this without our show sponsors, and that includes Gaston's White River Resort in near Lakeview, Arkansas, Barton Power Sports in West Memphis and Jonesboro, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and our brand new sponsor, Sportsman's Warehouse, down in South Haven. And they've got a big event coming up tomorrow night, Sunday night, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in the show. But just be prepared. It is a special night for friends and family.
That's a real deal, yes.
Yeah, real deal. But speaking of real deal, let's talk a little fishing. I know Ron loves to talk fishing.
Yes, I do.
And Mike Whitten, of course, has been one of our seminar speakers at the Mid-South Sports and Boat Show and the Hunting and Fishing Show. And I've always liked to get Mike on the air to talk a little fishing. So I'll probably just sit back and let Bill Cooksey, who catches a few himself, and Ron Wong, who always is looking for an invite someplace.
I'm always looking for an invite.
Yeah. Talk to Mike. Mike, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Hey, we're doing great. Let's talk a little bit, and I'm going to let Ron and Bill, because lake management, Ron has probably spent more time on that, coordinating lakes and things along that line. And I'm kind of interested in that, about once you have a lake and you want to manage it. Give me you guys kind of talk about this a little bit, and Mike will lead us in about, because I know some lakes that put, oh, man, I'm going to stock that thing with crappie. You know it?
Right.
And I know people say, I'm going to put catfish in there.
Right.
Then I'll hear somebody said, well, I didn't know we had bass in there, you know?
And then there's too many. But, you talk about lake management. Mike and I have had the opportunity to spend some time together in a boat, and we've talked a lot about lake management.
Front or back?
All of the above.
Okay, all right.
And, we've talked a lot about lake management, and we have been on lakes where they have rules that you have to do this, you have to do that. But that's to manage the population of bass, and, of course, when you talk about lake management, you talk about, especially for a new lake or pond, what is the sequence of events that you use to make sure that it becomes a healthy lake? And, Mike, we've had the opportunity to have to harvest fish in order to make the bass grow in certain lakes, haven't we?
That's absolutely right. So many people, our ethic now as fishermen, and, Ron and I have been fishing with and against each other for more years now than either one of us.
Yeah, we won't talk about numbers.
I will. Go ahead. All right.
but our ethic with tournament fishing is that it's a live release, catch and release. Mm-hmm. Catch, photograph, and release, which Ron does a marvelous job of, and I'm learning some things there. But
it's all the same three fish.
Well, there's that. You just change the angle, change the background. That's how that works.
Oh man, I knew that was coming.
Bill Cooksey the Fourth who said that.
But on these lakes, and Ron and I have one that we fish together periodically, and the rule for the owner is anything under about 16 inches, you take out. You harvest some fish. If you don't, the smaller bass will take over and dominate the ecosystem, and you'll never grow big fish. The lake that I got to fish that got me this invite to talk about it this morning a week ago it's a private lake. It's been in existence for over 20 years, and the owner of the lake manages it. He uses, I think, Southern Pond Management to help, but the lake is regularly fertilized. He has ways to add and delete water from it to keep the water level stable. He keeps non-desirable grasses, harvested out. And he has a very, very serious catch and release ethic, and he will harvest bass, but he does it on a year-to-year basis based on what he sees and what he's told about the population in the lake. And what's interesting is he does have big bluegill, both copper nose and regular bluegill.
Wow.
He has black and white crappie. And here's where the harvest comes in. When I got in the boat with this gentleman Saturday afternoon a week ago, he already had 40 crappie in the cooler that he'd caught for a friend that morning for a fish fry. So if you're going to have crappie in a lake, you've got to take them out. You've got to harvest because they're very prolific.
That's right.
And he's actually got, his water quality is such and the lake is deep enough. Ron, you'll like this. He's actually got spotted bass in the lake.
Wow. That means
which
he's
is just
got
unheard of for ponds in this area. But
that's right, because that means the water has to have some clarity to it, and it has to have some deeper water, so you have cooler water where they can live.
Exactly. The normal, cattle ranch farm pond that we grew up fishing, walking around the banks of would never hold spotted bass.
That's right.
It would never grow bass to the size that we call them either. So. It does take some effort. It does take some management. And it takes an owner of the property. He'll say, if you want to share my property, here are the rules. And if you don't follow them, you don't get to go back.
That's right.
That's one thing. I'm going to say this publicly on air. Well, that's one of the things I've come to know and respect about Ron Long. He understands it, and he will follow it to the letter. And if he goes on a piece of property, it's better when he leaves than it was when he got there.
I've been there with Ron last year a couple of times with Ron on a property that needed to be thinned out, and I was happy to help thin them out. I'm a thin guy, so I'm good on thinning. But
a 12 to 14-inch bass is a great fish to eat.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's the perfect size.
That's what we were talking about.
And so it all plays in together. We put a recipe for whole bass in this month's magazine.
Oh, you did?
For that reason.
Wow.
There you go.
And here's the other thing, too. A bass that size is not it's not in the spawning reproductive cycle yet.
Yeah.
That's right.
All it's doing is deleting the food source. And, it was amazing, some of the fish that we caught, the smaller fish, the males that we caught that day were anywhere from 3 1/4 to 3 pounds and 12 ounces.
Yeah,
wow. That's a big male bass.
You called it the most incredible day on an amazing lake, best 6 hours of fishing that you've ever experienced. And you've been fishing for how long, Mike?
I'm 63. I've been fishing since I was 4 years old.
All right, you and Walt.
That's a long time.
That's a long time, and that's and Bill was talking about ethics too, because I see these people with these big bass, and don't keep them things. I mean,
Well, now, of course, what I was talking about earlier really wasn't about that. It was more about, as y'all mentioned, following a landowner's rules. If you're fishing private water,
and that's what Mike was saying there.
In public water, respecting each other, respecting other people, and that's all the same thing. Respect the landowner, respect fellow
He's
fishermen.
letting you come out there.
Here's the deal on something like that, Bill. The lake that I fished it 3 or 4 times before with the gentleman that owns it, and I'm obviously going to keep it private.
Well, sure, I don't blame
you. It is by invitation only.
Walt's writing it down over there right now.
I would never show up just uninvited and be on his lake.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not done. Any more than I would go fish some of the lakes that Ron's been kind enough to take me to.
That's right.
Don't
Ron,
do that.
And Mike, you've been with me, and you know that I get on the phone when we're on our way to let the landowner know that I'm going to go to fish for the afternoon or for the day, and that's just a matter of courtesy.
Absolutely.
Whether it's required or not.
Well,
it's a matter of courtesy that you let people know what you're doing.
Don't you have to have? I have to admit that one time I got chased off a lake. Okay, because another person told me he had permission to be on that lake, and I come to find out later that he did not have permission to be on that lake.
It happened,
and so I'm out there, and we were catching them, and this guy said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, who I was." Well, you're not supposed to be here. I said, I got permission, I said the guy's name that gave me permission. He said, well, I don't know him anymore, and I don't know you. So there are times, so you need to have that don't just take somebody else's word and show up and fishing on somebody's lake.
That's right.
Well, while we're talking about, let me throw this out for the listeners as well.
Sure.
I mean, the pictures that I took obviously got posted. I mean, you've seen them on Facebook, and we did weigh them very carefully on a very accurate scale.
10 bass weighing 61 pounds, 12 ounces.
Held up with the lower jaw bent.
Yeah.
None of them were taken with laying on a boat seat. One of my biggest pet peeves is these guys that will take pictures of fish with their cell phone, but they're laying them on a boat carpet.
Yeah, yeah.
That takes the slime off.
Sandpaper and sand the slime off the fish when you do that.
Well, it's kind of like taking sandpaper against your own human skin.
Exactly,
you're taking off a protective layer of
opens to infection.
That's right.
Yeah,
and
that's right,
same
guys.
to a fish.
Exactly. I mean, these fish, we caught them, we weighed them very quickly. From the time they came over the side of the boat, picture taken back in the water was less than 40 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, that quick.
Yeah, Mike, just for all of our listeners, it's pretty incredible to catch 10 fish weighing over 60 pounds on any one day. Very quickly, how did you guys catch them?
We caught them on shallow water patterns. They were actually pulling up around individual cypress trees.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't on anything that wasn't wood.
Right.
These fish were clearly either immediately pre-spawn or setting up on spawning beds.
Right.
We caught them on weightless stick worms, either wacky rigs or
That's
Texas
fun.
rig,
That's
5 or
fun.
6 inch Cincos or the 5 or 6 inch Strike King Ocho.
Yep.
And you had to almost make a skip cast to get them back up under the cypress trees. Limbs were low hanging.
Right.
That's what I was saying. If not that I'm a great caster, but if you couldn't make a skip cast, you're not going to catch them. I mean, and it took us about 2 hours to figure it out. The first 2 hours, we had 3 bites.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we went shallow and figured out that they were on isolated cypress trees, it's the same thing. I saw your pictures from Horseshoe Run, what those fish do over there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We did the same thing.
Yeah.
When they get there, when they get on that pattern, it's as strong a pattern as you'll ever see.
Yep.
And, our best 5, I mean, it reads like something out of Florida. An 8-9, a 7-14, a 7-12, a 7-8, and 2 7-4s.
Wow.
Good stuff.
Is that not awesome? Well, Mike Whitten, thank you for taking time with us on this Saturday morning. And, folks, I know that to get Mike on and talk about this and see the excitement there and all those bass went back in the lake, so he's going to go back and catch them again and let them grow a while. And then Ron Wong, look for him in the bushes over there at the far end, peering out between the trees.
Is that why you want that head net for turkey hunting?
That's right.
That's right.
All right, Mike, thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you down the road. Appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen. Talk to you soon.
All
Bye-bye.
right, let's take a break. Come right back. We're rolling along here on Outdoors with Larry Ray. Man, it goes by so quickly. Greg Rackman, our show producer. We'll be right back.
You can find